Let's talk about a frightening topic that could shift the global balance of power: China's exponential growth in military power. To understand how this has been happening, we need to go back to the 1980s, a period when the People's Liberation Army, the Chinese PLA, was far from the force we know today. At that time, the PLA was highly dependent on Soviet technology, with equipment that was already obsolete by global standards. The Chinese armed forces of that era were limited in almost every way. The Air Force consisted of aircraft based on old Soviet models, incapable of facing the modern air forces of other powers. The Navy was small and ineffective, unable to operate far from its own shores. All this made China a limited regional military power, without any significant projection on the international scene. The big turning point came in the early 1990s, during the Gulf War. This conflict was a shock to Chinese military leaders. They watched closely as the United States used advanced technologies, such as precision-guided missiles and stealth aircraft, to defeat its adversaries quickly and efficiently. This demonstration of power made it clear that the PLA was decades behind in terms of modern warfare. This moment was a watershed for China. The Chinese government realized that to ensure its national security and achieve its strategic objectives, it would need to radically modernize its armed forces. From then on, a clear vision began to emerge of how to transform the PLA into a modern military force capable of facing the major global powers. It was during this period that China began to invest heavily in military research and development, making the modernization of its armed forces a national priority. But it was not just a matter of updating equipment. There was a larger strategy at play, which involved using the country's economic strength to drive this transformation. And that is exactly what began to change the global landscape and take China to a new level of military power. Once China identified the need to modernize its armed forces, the country used what it knew best: economies of scale. This concept, which has driven China's industrial and economic growth in recent decades, was strategically applied to the military sector. This allowed China to mass-produce equipment, reducing costs and accelerating the pace of its army's modernization. Initially, the focus was on exporting armaments to the global market. China became a major arms supplier, selling primarily to developing countries seeking more affordable options. These products were still relatively simple and often based on old Soviet models, but large-scale production allowed China to occupy an important space in the international arms market. Over time, this strategy evolved. Instead of just mass-producing, Chinese defense companies began to invest in innovation and quality. An example of this is the advancement in systems such as drones, stealth fighters, and hypersonic missiles. Another important aspect was the creation of industrial infrastructure to support this growth. China developed a network of state-owned and private companies working together to design, manufacture, and improve armaments. This integration between government and industry ensured not only efficiency, but also technological independence, reducing the need to import equipment from other countries. Tragicao para o Ingles. Economies of scale, combined with technological innovation, have allowed China to modernize its armed forces and position its defense sector as one of the most advanced in the world. This model of mass production with a focus on quality has transformed the PLA into a modern military force capable of competing with the world's major powers. And as the quality of Chinese equipment increased, its armed forces began to expand their operational capacity in an impressive way. The modernization of China's military power was not limited to technological advancement and the mass production of equipment. For the People's Liberation Army, PLA, to become truly efficient, it was necessary to reform its organizational structure. This process began in the mid-2010s and represented one of the most profound changes in China's military history. One of the main objectives of these reforms was to improve integration between the country's different armed forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Rocket Force, and the newly created Strategic Support Force. To this end, China implemented a joint command system inspired by the models of the world's major military powers. This system allowed operations to be conducted in an integrated manner, significantly increasing efficiency and responsiveness. Another important change was the reduction in the total number of troops. For decades, the PLA was known for its enormous number of soldiers, a legacy of its history as an army focused on mass wars. However, modernization required quality, not just quantity. Therefore, the PLA went from 4 million soldiers in the 1980s to about 2 million today. This reduction allowed a greater focus on specialization and the training of elite troops. The professionalization of the PLA was another crucial point. Training programs were modernized, incorporating realistic combat simulations and joint exercises between the different branches of the armed forces. In addition, military education was prioritized with the creation of academies and schools that prepare soldiers and officers to face the challenges of modern warfare, including cyber and space scenarios. Another highlight of the reforms was the decentralization of operational command. Previously, military decisions were concentrated in Beijing, which made the system slow and bureaucratic. With the reforms, regional commands known as theater commands were created, which have autonomy to operate in their respective areas. This gave the PLA a strategic agility that was previously non-existent. These organizational changes transformed the PLA from a rigid and outdated military force into a modern, efficient, and highly coordinated war machine. The modernization of China's military power was only possible thanks to an indispensable factor: the massive increase in defense spending. Since the early 1990s, China's military budget has grown more than tenfold, reflecting the country's commitment to transforming the People's Liberation Army into one of the most powerful forces in the world. In 2023, China allocated approximately $225 billion to the defense sector, making it the second largest military budget on the planet, second only to the United States. This continuous investment has allowed the country to fund a wide range of projects, from the acquisition of state-of-the-art equipment to advanced research and development programs. The goal was not only to catch up with military powers, but also to surpass some of them in specific areas. In addition, the investment was used to improve training capabilities and troop welfare. Soldiers and officers began to receive more modern equipment and specialized training in realistic environments. Military career incentive programs were also implemented, making the PLA more attractive to young talent and strengthening its professional base. It is important to note that the growth in defense spending was not only quantitative, but also qualitative. China not only bought more weapons, but invested in technological innovation to create its own solutions and overcome its dependence on imports. This ensured that the country could design, produce, and modernize its equipment independently, reinforcing its strategic autonomy. With this level of investment, China has not only transformed its armed forces, but also signaled to the world its intention to position itself as a global military power. However, China's military growth goes beyond spending. It also reflects impressive technological advances that put the country at the forefront of several areas of modern warfare. The rapid growth of China's military is directly linked to its technological advances. In recent years, the country has not only closed gaps with Western powers, but has also excelled in areas that will define future battlefields. These advances have given the People's Liberation Army a significant advantage in technology and strategic capabilities. One of the biggest milestones of this evolution is the incorporation of artificial intelligence, AI, into military systems. AI is being used to improve the accuracy of autonomous weapons, optimize combat strategies, and strengthen command and control systems. This technology allows the PLA to make real-time decisions based on large volumes of data, something essential in a modern warfare scenario. Another highlight is hypersonic missiles, which represent a revolution in global military power. These missiles can travel at extremely high speeds, making them nearly impossible to intercept with current defense technologies. China has already tested and deployed several of these systems, consolidating its position as a leader in this emerging area. In the field of cyber and electronic warfare, China has also made great strides. The country has developed advanced capabilities to neutralize enemy communications, hack strategic systems, and protect its own infrastructure from attacks. These skills are seen as crucial in future conflicts, where superiority in cyberspace can be as important as conventional military force. In addition, China is investing heavily in space technology for military purposes. Satellites for secure communications, surveillance, and navigation are being developed to increase the PLA's operational efficiency and autonomy. The newly created Strategic Support Force focuses specifically on these domains, showing how modern warfare is being redefined. These technological advances place China at a new level of military power, altering the global dynamics and forcing other powers to rethink their strategies. But the impact of this growth goes beyond technology. It directly reflects the global arms market, where China is consolidating itself as a major exporting power. Another fundamental point in China's military growth is its performance in the global arms market. China has become one of the largest exporters of armaments, with a product line ranging from anti-tank missiles to air defense systems and advanced artillery. This equipment is already present in various conflicts around the world, making the country a growing reference in the defense sector. In the past, Chinese weaponry was known for being cheap copies of Soviet models, often inferior in quality. However, that has changed dramatically in recent decades. With technological advancement and continuous improvement, Chinese products have begun to compete directly with the major powers in the sector, offering modern and highly effective solutions. The highlight is systems such as advanced drones, latest generation fighters, and high-precision missiles. These products not only meet the demands of the international market, but also demonstrate the technological capacity that the country has achieved. Many of these equipments are already being exported to countries in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, which are seeking more affordable alternatives to Western powers. In addition to increasing quality, China's export strategy goes far beyond the simple sale of armaments. The country offers complete packages that include training, technical support, and maintenance, establishing long-term strategic partnerships. This strengthens ties between China and its partners, increasing its influence in key regions of the global scene. Large-scale production, which is a hallmark of Chinese industry, also plays an important role here. By manufacturing armaments in large quantities, China is able to reduce costs and offer highly competitive prices. This approach allows its products to not only rival those of other powers, but also dominate the market in terms of accessibility and availability. The growth of China's military has implications that go far beyond its borders. As the country strengthens its armed forces and expands its influence in the global arms market, it redefines the power dynamics in the international arena. This transformation does not happen in isolation, but is directly linked to China's strategic ambitions to consolidate its position as a global superpower. One of the main areas of impact is the Indo-Pacific region, where China has intensified its military presence. The expansion of the People's Liberation Army Navy, now the largest in terms of the number of ships, is a clear example. With aircraft carriers, advanced destroyers, and amphibious assault ships, China has increased its ability to project power at sea, challenging the traditional dominance of the United States in the region. In addition, the strengthening of the Chinese military generates tensions in territorial disputes, such as in the South China Sea. The construction of military bases on artificial islands and the increase in maritime patrols show that China is willing to use its military force to protect its strategic interests. This worries neighboring countries and provokes a reaction from Western powers, which have intensified military exercises and alliances in the region. Another important geopolitical aspect is China's growing partnership with other countries that challenge the Western-led world order. Through arms exports, military agreements, and strategic investments, China strengthens ties with nations in Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America, expanding its sphere of influence and promoting a multipolar order. These actions have direct consequences for the global balance of power. Traditional powers, such as the United States and its allies, need to deal with a China that not only strengthens its own armed forces, but also exports political and military influence to other regions. The truth is that China's military growth is one of the most striking phenomena of the 21st century. In a few decades, the country has transformed its armed forces from an antiquated structure into a modern and highly advanced power, capable of competing with the world's major powers. With massive investments, impressive technological advances, and a growing presence on the global stage, the country is redesigning the dynamics of power in the world. This movement strengthens its position as an emerging superpower and generates challenges and tensions that will define the course of international politics in the coming years. And in the face of this, let's keep an eye on the next steps of the Chinese Communist regime, so follow the channel now. Thank you for watching, and until the next documentary that is here on the screen.